Hi, my name is Logan Pisciotta, and I will be doing a financial analysis for three companies I have chosen and got information on by Bloomberg Lab for Finance 381 at Southeastern Louisiana University. The three companies I will be analyzing are Mizuno Corporation, Bridgestone Corporation, and Hornbeck Offshore Services. Mizuno Corporation is a sporting goods company that makes and provides sporting equipment to the industry. Bridgestone Corporation is an automotive tire company that sells and makes tires as well as other automotive things. Hornbeck Offshore Services is the leading supplier of transfer vessels, tankers, and barges. For this analysis, we will be analyzing the companies to decide which companies will we give a long-term loan to of 5 years, a short-term loan, or which companies would I like to buy part of. Some of the ratios we'll be using to analyze the companies that I like to buy part of are return on assets, which is percent of assets kept and how profitable it is. Also, for buying half of the company, we'll be using price earnings, which is how the company will grow in the future, and return on equity, which is how much profit is earned by shareholders' money. To figure out the 5-year loan, we will be using the equity multiplier, the debt-to-equity ratio, and the time earned interest ratio. The equity multiplier is how much money comes from creditors. The debt-to-equity ratio is pretty much the same, except it's how much comes from equity. In the times earned interest, the EBIT and divided by interest, can they pay off their debt? Are they not able to pay off their debt? This ratio will tell us that. The higher this is, the better. The equations for the 6-month loan will be using the cash ratio, which measures liquidity, and also quick ratio, which measures the liquidity, but it's a little simpler. There's no inventory involved. And then we will be using current ratio, which measures whether or not a firm has enough money to pay us back over the next 12 months or 6 months, whatever the loan may be. The current ratio, as we take a look at here, Hornbeck has a very high current ratio, but they fluctuate a lot over the few years that we have analyzed. Bridgestone and Mizuno are pretty similar. They kind of mellow out for 4 or 5 years around the same percentage ratio. Hornbeck has a high ratio, which this is very good for the company. The quick ratio takes out the inventory, and as we see here, if there's no inventory, Hornbeck still has a high quick ratio because there's not really inventory involved, while Mizuno and Bridgestone, who are known for their inventory, have a lower quick ratio than Hornbeck. The cash ratio is strictly cash. That's all we look at here. Hornbeck has, again, a high cash ratio, even though they're not consistent. Their lowest points are still higher than Mizuno Corporation and Bridgestone Corporation. Bridgestone and Mizuno, once again, have an equal, just about, cash ratio for the years that we looked at. The good thing about the cash ratio is the higher the better. And as we see, Hornbeck is very good at that. So after analyzing these three equations, I would have to say that I would go with Hornbeck for the 6-month loan because they have the ability to pay back loans easier. According to the current ratio, it almost triples Mizuno and Bridgestone Corporation. Now we're going to look at the 5-year loan and see who I like to give that to. For this, we're going to look at the price earnings, the equity multiplier, and the debt-to-equity ratio. The equity multiplier needs to be low. It's better low than high. As we see here, the equity multiplier is just under 2, between 1.5 and 2.5 for all three companies. So that's they're kind of all in the same situation here. So if this is the case, we're going to turn to the debt-to-equity ratio, which shows that Hornbeck has a higher debt-to-equity ratio than the other two. Now this is bad for Hornbeck because they also have a high equity multiplier, which is not good. Mizuno and Bridgestone happen to come down on their debt to equity ratio though, so this helps them out in the long run. After we look at those, we will look at the time earned interest ratio, and for this, Mizuno and Bridgestone Corporation have a higher time earned interest ratio, which is good because that means they can pay off the debt quicker than most people would. Bridgestone Corporation has the highest over the years, which increases, while Mizuno kind of decreases, while Hornbeck kind of stays at the same and levels out. So if I'd have to pick after looking at all three equations, I would have to go with Mizuno Corporation, Bridgestone Corporation, to get the 5-year loan because they have the highest possibility of paying me back, and they are able to pay me back because they have the ability to earn interest on things. Was it worth the loan? Part of analyzing the three companies will be determining whether or not they can pay off their debts in time and how much they already had also. I will determine how much risk they are taking. All of this will determine if I can give these companies a long-term 5-year loan. So after doing all that, we have decided that Bridgestone will be the candidate that I would choose to give the 5-year loan to. To become a partner, I would like to figure out how profitable a company is, which is the return on assets. Also, I would like to determine the future growth of the company, which is price earnings. And the last thing I like to look at would be the return on equity. The higher the return on assets, the better. The highest possible you can go is the better for your company. And the higher the return on equity is good as well. While the price margin, the higher, the turnover asset ratio is higher and equity multiplier is lower. And this all equals to return on equity as well. So as we look here, return on assets, Bridgestone has a very high return on assets, which keeps them in the running for the loan, for buying half of the company. While Mizuno and Hornbeck have mellowed out and not done so well on their loans. They're kind of consistent, but they're low, while Bridgestone is very consistent and high. The asset turnover ratio and the profit margin ratio are very low for Hornbeck and kind of unstable, while the asset turnover ratio for Mizuno and Bridgestone are pretty equal. This means that the return on equity, the higher the better, which is all of these put together basically. So I would have to say that Bridgestone has the better return on equity as well. After analyzing all three companies and acquiring all the information I needed, I decided to buy Mizuno Corporation. This choice is because of the high asset turnover they produce as well as the future growth potential based on the price earnings. I see potential growth in the company because of the price earnings, which are increasing more than increasing every year with this company. Also, Mizuno is becoming a major factor in professional athletes these days. So the potential growth I see is well on their way to being a top brand in the professional industry. Thank you for taking the time to watch my analysis of Mizuno Corporation, Bridgestone Corporation, and Hornbeck Offshore Services. I hope you can now understand why I choose the company I chose, and these analyses illustrate the reasons I chose to buy the company I chose. Thanks. My name is Logan Pisciotta, and have a good day.